Hi, I am Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, and I'm standing here with many members of the nightlife establishment in the city of New York. I have representatives from the Bronx, from Queens, from Brooklyn, all over the city. And about a year and a half ago, I met and received a call from many of our nightlife establishment leaders who were indicating that they were being targeted and unfairly treatment. We conducted a preliminary review, and it was clear that we have weaponized the police enforcement tool on black and brown businesses, and using the summonses and the legal system, they have been targeted and forced to close down in many cases. And you're going to hear from some of the owners of the establishment. The State Liquor Authority, in coordination with the police department, have specifically targeted these businesses. And we're calling today for the Attorney General to conduct a thorough investigation and to look in the disproportionality of enforcement in black and brown nightlife establishment, which is one of the largest drivers of employment in various parts of this city. They employ the underserved, they employ many who are low skilled, everything from cooks to dishwasher to table handlers. The large number of employees that they have is part of the overall concern around hurting black and brown businesses. So as we evolve into the openings of nightlife establishments like restaurants, as we see there are a disproportionate number that are being allowed to use sidewalk and street space in the inner city, but there's also a story that has yet to be told, that how these businesses are being additionally targeted by a combined effort of the State Liquor Authority, the police department, and the FDNY. In some of these cases, as I looked over them for the last year and a half, I was deeply disturbed to see the intentional daily interaction and harassment of legal, legitimate businesses that employ from the inner city, but they're not allowed to carry out their businesses, that the complete disruption of their businesses by a coordinated effort by those who should be upholding the law. And so our call is immediate to carry out a cease and desist action against these businesses, to stop allowing non-SLA infractions to be used against them, to take away their state liquor license, for the Attorney General to conduct a thorough investigation to look at the disproportionality of the enforcement that is happening in the inner city in comparison to other parts of the city. The cases will clearly reveal that there's an active pursuit to close down these black and brown businesses, particularly in gentrified areas. The 311 system, the State Liquor Authority, the FDNY, the NYPD have all created a concerted effort to weaponize the system to harm these black and brown establishments. So I want you to hear directly from them. I'm also joined by my good friend, Councilman Cabrera, who also has raised this up in the Washington Heights area and in the Bronx area for so many years. This has not been a new inquiry. This inquiry has been taking place for over a year and a half for my office, and I'm sure even longer in his office. We have been looking into these complaints and allegations from these business people. And so I want to bring up the councilman, and then we will bring up some of those business people who have been directly impacted by this initiative of a combined effort from the NYPD, FDNY, State Liquor Authority to harm these businesses. Councilman?
Thank you so much for your leadership, the Borough President Eric Adams, lending us your loud voice. I could tell you firsthand this is taking place. I was in a meeting with 40 of the restaurant and nightlife owners. And unknown to us, into the middle of the meeting, an NYPD, Officer Peña, was outside in his car. And every restaurant owner that was coming in, he was sending a signal, and I want you to look carefully. He went just like this to you. This is the level of harassment that goes day and day on. And what makes it even worse, that during the COVID-19 season that was still going on, when they have suffered so much, it's still going on. That's the part that even burns me even so much more. Something must be done. We have to get to the root policies that the Borough President had just mentioned in order to eradicate these practices that are not conducive to the mission of the NYPD. They're there to serve and to protect and to provide integrity into the system, and we're having the total opposite. And this is why I commend the Borough President. I stand alongside with these business owners that have paid the price, the black and brown communities that are suffering right now. These business owners, they employ literally thousands upon thousands of people. Thank you so much.
Is Dan here, Dan? Okay, and we have Dan Hogle from the Black Institute who has been participating in a lot of this investigation. Dan?
Thank you, Borough President. I'm happy we see so many folks out here today concerned about nightlife enforcement. In 2019, the Black Institute put out a report called Cabaret 2.0 that showed how, despite attempts at reform, the police department was still targeting minority businesses and minority communities at 4 times the rate of white neighborhoods. And the metrics and the methods they used to identify these targets was amorphous, not clear, not tracked well. And we are happy to pass legislation to bring about some level of accountability and transparency here in New York. They're supposed to be issuing quarterly reports over all of their nightlife enforcement. We haven't gotten those reports yet. So you can check out our report, Cabaret 2.0, on our website, theblackinstitute.org. We implore the City Council to act within the law and make sure that the information is available to businesses. We also are hoping to have legislation statewide to also bring about some level of accountability and transparency to the State Liquor Authority, who's just used as a baton to beat so many black and brown businesses into closing their doors once and for all. And that was before the pandemic. So the fact that with this going on, and we can call them heroes out of one side of our mouth and demand these ridiculous penalties at the same time, it's self-defeating. So I appreciate everybody out here standing with us, and encourage you all to keep up the fight. Thank you.
Thank you. And here also is former city council person who's the owner of Cafe Omar. His business was also impacted and harassed. Kendall?
Good morning. My name is Kendall Stewart, and I would like to let you know basically that I was unjustly closed down. My license was taken away after they fined me $30,000, and within 4 weeks thereafter, they took away my license. If you're going to take away someone's license, why you have to charge them $30,000? And it's all because 1 or 2 officers may want to get at you. And if they tell you that they're going to take your license away, rest assured they're going to do that, because they're going to do the things to make sure that they take your license away. They write you summonses that are unwarranted, and there's no one you can go to. Even if you go to the courts here and they throw them out, SLA will then still count them as summonses. And I think that is wrong. I don't think you should be going to 2 or 3 different adjudicators to look at what your problem is. I feel this is only happening in the black and brown areas. Complaints are being made for noise, and when you check to see if the noise complaints are there, they're not there. They will say that you have 15 complaints, and you check with 311 where the complaints are supposed to be lodged, and there might be only 2. It means then that they will put those things together to present to the SLA so that they can get rid of you. And if an officer tells you, we're going to close you down, rest assured they're going to close you down, even if there's no real violation. If they ask you to see an area and you say, let me get the keys, they say, don't worry about it. But yet still they will write up that violation to say that you didn't show them the place. If they see a fly that may come in while they are coming in, they say, well, there's a fly in your establishment, and they'll write you up for that. Brothers and sisters, I think something needs to be done. If nightlife establishments are to survive in New York, I think they got to be an independent entity to deal with that. Not the police, who may want to victimize you, but at the same time, SLA should be the one to send out there to do an inspection to see what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And if you're doing something wrong, they should be able to tell you, not just come and write you up 100 summonses for nothing. And I so ask that you support us in this venture to make sure that nightlife survives. New York depends on nightlife, and I want you to be able to say, basically, that we should be able to do that. Thank you.
And so I think it's important to hear from the owners of these businesses that employ our young people in this community and give them an opportunity to work. 2 of these cases that we want to highlight are extremely horrendous, and it really personifies what we're talking about. The first is Gary Cole, and the second is Sharon from Mazi Club. Gary?
Thank you, Councilman. Today I'm here in order of support, because I'm here in order of support. I manage a large nightclub in which it was, what we feel, unjustly shut down by efforts of the NYPD as well as the SLA. Like my associate, it was the same methodology that was used, frivolous summonses as well as unrated march operations, as well as numerous attempts to revoke and cancel a license that was not warranted. After going through rigorous hearings with the SLA, they have still came up with unjustified reasons to cancel a liquor license of a viable business. The liquor license was primarily the root and core of the business, and hence the business is now closed today. We feel that we have been targeted and continue to be targeted as minorities and as groups that are trying to honestly make a living and provide a living for so many other people. And today, I support this effort to change the system, as our livelihoods and our money and our finances have all gone down the drain when there's a demise of the business. And you're left with lease payments, and you're left with all the financial obligations that you no longer can take care of. In an effort to be proactive, to create a viable business and to have bountiful nightlife establishment in a city that loves nightlife, we are not treated fairly. And today I ask that these be changed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gary? No, huh? Yes. What would happen to your business?
Yeah. My name is Gary Cole, the owner of the Rocktop Lounge in Brooklyn. And my story is, each time we open that door, Sergeant Cozier from the 6-7 precinct is always there. Find some reason, no matter what. You try to do everything right, and he's always coming up with something. Noise, overcrowding, a bunch of different reasons. Sometimes you bring the whole task force, the police department, the fire department, health department, all the departments to write your tickets. And it's annoying, man. You can't run a business and have police present in a business establishment as soon as you open that door. Thankful to all these people that make this possible so our voice could be heard and the problem that we are going through, because it's a daily thing with us each time, with the police department, 6-7 precinct, constantly finding some way. Park the police cruiser right in front of the establishment, flash the light all night long, just to deter the clients that come in there. It is hard to keep up running a business with all this kind of problem. Hopefully something can be done about it, and we really need someone who could help us to solve this problem that we are going through. Thank you.
And the last business is Curvans, Marisa.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Marisa Davis. I'm the owner of Curvins Bar on Lydig Avenue in the Pelham Parkway Morris Park section of the Bronx. In 2017, I built Curvins with my life savings and aspirations of independence and my second venture into small business ownership. From inception, I had a good relationship with my local 49th precinct and the previous command before and current. I've always helped when asked several times and worked hard to do many things suggested by my community affairs and NCO officers. In over 2 years, I had no problems and only one call on New Year's Eve, which in New York City is deserving of a medal considering I'm running a bar in the Bronx. I employ people in the community, LGBTQ+, and people of color. I pioneered development in an area that was otherwise devoid of solid investment and a quality establishment. In 2017, I was oddly given hours until 1 a.m. on weekdays and 2 a.m. on weekends, even though neighboring white-owned establishments were given until 3 a.m. from inception and thrived until 4 a.m. for dozens of years. I'm a 42-year-old black woman with over 20 years experience in some of the best establishments in New York City, and I'm still unable to understand why my hours were so short from the start, but I still accepted. After a great 2 years and only one call, I approached a Community Board 11 in January of 2020 for an extension of hours. I expected no issues as I was passed with flying colors the month prior in December when I was reviewed and renewed my liquor license. At this Community Board 11 meeting, a 6-month-old new Queens transfer and brand new addition to the 49 precinct, Lieutenant Michael Verbrugge, decided to speak on my tenure as an owner onto the board. He had no facts of my past, no information on my previous dealings with the past commanding officers, and neglected to do his due diligence as a new officer. After I left the meeting, his lies began, and not while I was present. As a result, I had no due process or chance to defend myself. If I had not returned to the board the following week to listen to the taped meeting, I would be ignorant to his rants. His disparaging comments of me as an owner painted an incorrect picture of my business, how I operate, my relationship with the precinct that I had tried very hard to build, and moreover, subsequently, I was denied my extension of hours. This lieutenant said things such as, I never do what I'm told, lied stating I had been spoken to many times and still wasn't cooperative, when I had never seen or spoken to this lieutenant before. He didn't speak on my stellar 2 years, and I was judged unfairly. He didn't speak on my patterns of no incidents, my history with the station. His words and harsh judgment as a black-owned bar in that area created a negative picture of me. His incorrect narratives, like I said, blocked my extension of hours, costing me thousands to date in lost revenue. He even reduced himself to delivering a call log to this same community board of my own personal calls for police assistance with exterior concerns, and positioning these calls from the community. Imagine using my own need for help against me. How can you build a relationship with an organization that tells you to call them for help and then uses those very calls against you? The system is designed to fail us. How can I win? How can I survive as a small business when I have the same lying lieutenant telling board heads things like I've had multiple brawls inside my bar when there's no police report to support such lies? Flat out lies with no police reports to back up these statements because they don't exist. It's simply an attempt to keep their foot on the neck of black and brown businesses and not give us a fair chance for market share, closing us down early on peak nights while white bars in the area stay open late. The same lieutenant came in and did a business check, lied again on my staff and business, stating my GM told him we let patrons sleep inside so they don't become victims of a crime. Statements that his body cam can easily prove as a falsehood. Again, giving me a pill to swallow I didn't deserve and a summons I still have no copy of to date. After all of this, the pandemic hit and businesses like mine closed for months. After almost 3 hard months of closures, I had officers parked every day outside my establishment with their lights on, giving an appearance and an assumption of wrongdoing, camped out directly in front of my door daily for no reason, while community members glared from across the street, stopping to rubberneck but not coming in to patronize. Harassing behavior like this prohibits me from thriving, while white bars downtown basked in privilege with overcrowded streets and all-night parties, getting their bank accounts fat and healthy, while I barely survived in an outer borough with a campaign to diminish my customer base. The West and East Village were a nonstop party for months. Meanwhile, I was getting intimidating calls from my precinct with assumptions of wrongdoing, coming to my bar to grab and go with the police sitting outside. Who's coming there with the lights on every day? It's an assault on my bank account. With my hours not extended, I've missed out on over 19 hours a week of lost revenue. I've lost out on the ability to make money at the start of reopening in May due to the harassment and intimidation by parking in front of my establishment day after day. I've since tried to recover and rejuvenate my business with the new ability to have outdoor seating. They have since ceased their tactics of sitting in front since I began table seating outside, but the damage is already done. The comments at the community board meetings about my multiple brawls have already been released to the public. My bank account was assaulted repeatedly. A passive-aggressive intimidation tactic was executed, and am I expected to just sit and accept the loss of revenue? The change in accountability needs to start now. The unfair judgments and repercussions for me are not experienced by others who partake in privilege and look different than I, just like my brothers and sisters behind me. No one of color will be able to thrive in nightlife when officers go unchecked for their tactics and their comments, when wrongdoing is assumed and not confirmed, when one incorrect statement can cost an owner thousands, when these officers are in charge of deciding our fate. It's not every officer, as I've had some wonderful encounters, but the mean-spirited attack on my abilities by this Lieutenant Verbrugge, missing pertinent information, stopped me from receiving a full and truthful assessment of who I am and how I run things. Even the head of my local community board is an ex-NYPD officer who took the words of his lieutenant without fact-checking. We need to reform, we need officer accountability, and we need it now. We should be able to have truthful and honest execution of relationships between precincts and owners. But right now we have rogue cops with hidden agendas making it hard for minorities to simply survive and breaking down the fabric of honor and accountability.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we're going to open the questions, but I think it's important. One of the cases that really impacted me was the case out in Queens with Doris, who's the owner of the Hills. And her case really just hits home, as it was just expressed. So we wanted, Doris, can you tell us your case? Yes.
I have my paper here, but I'm going to be very brief. My name is Doris Rodney, and I'm the proud owner of the Hills Restaurant and Bar, which is located in Brooklyn, 4706 Church Avenue. I'm here today really in support of all of my colleagues here and myself and people who are interested in opening a nightlife. It is not easy, but when you were born to serve and loved and give, that's my passion. I love to cook, I love to serve, I love to watch people's expressions on their faces when they're eating Caribbean food. But today, it's a sad day for me. This is something I've been longing to do. But who do I turn to? Everywhere you turn, you get in black. So, I want to thank you, sir, Mr. Eric Adams, for giving me the platform to convey my message. I've been in business from 2004 with a partner. Then, solely, I become owner for the Hills Restaurant. From 2015, I was harassed constantly. For whatever reason, I don't know. There has been time when, yes, overcrowding, but not to the max. You probably would have 4 or 5 overcrowding and they put it to 200, where your capacity is 75. They would put it to 200 and all these things they would do. Start billing cases, like the gentleman say from Racktop, you would get a bunch of summonses. They piled it up. One night you would get like 14, 15. For what? When you go to the courts, they throw it out like you're here wasting our time. But it's going to SLA. And SLA, they're clocking you. So when it gets there, they either shut you down, they revoke, they canceled your license. Recently, my license was canceled because of 311 calls saying noises, which my establishment is very, very flourishing, which I thank God. A lot of people from all walks of life, they comes to my restaurant. And other business places, the jealousy, they would call, set up people, they're with the NYPD. Whatever they're doing, I don't know, I would love to do the same thing so I can be at peace. But whatever they're doing, I don't know. But they're friends, and if they're gonna give me a ticket for tinted windows, you have to get tickets too, because you're right up the block. But no, they would pass, but they come into the Hills. But what I wanna really drive home, the money that you're spending on fines, 14,000, 15,000, 20,000, that is to shut you down. That is not helping you. You're not getting help. They want to shut you down. Gentrification, they want to shut you down. And like, when all of this money has been exhausted, your bank account has been dried up, what do you do? Just, I need answers. What do you do? Nothing. What else can you do? You have jobs for the locals. I have in my community, I have the gang, the Crips and the Bloods. The police can't handle them, but I handle them. I would go out to them and I would speak to them like a mother, talk to them. There are kids out there, right? They're doing stuff because of the injustice behavior from the authority. We have to look after our children that are right here now. Black, white, purple, I don't care what color you are. You are my children. And we're here to represent all of this that is going on. But we want, yes, we want them to stop. I've just been fined $40,000, right? They canceled my license, and because of the executive and the congressman and everybody in my neighbor in Brooklyn, they wrote letters and they gave it back to me. For me to open 1 a.m. up to 1 a.m., $40,000, I had to scrape, borrow, beg to pay that $40,000. Right now I'm in debt. Now the COVID pops up. Everybody had to close. So there is no money. So I'm here for a change. Please, we need a change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so what we really want to get clear here today is that different boroughs, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Upper Manhattan, Washington Heights. If you look at the pattern, there's a clear pattern. You follow the gentrification map and you see the enforcement of the FDNY, NYPD, the SLA. That is the unholy trinity that is playing a role of closing down legitimate black businesses and destroying the savings of these black and brown entrepreneurs. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're saying Black Lives Matter of camping out and fighting for justice and what is right. We're saying Black Lives Matter to open black businesses to hire young people so they're not on the corners and going unemployed. We say Black Lives Matter so you don't give summonses to young people to destroy their careers, and you don't give summonses to black businesses to destroy their businesses. There is a pattern here, and that is why we're calling on the Attorney General to expose the racism in the application of legal laws to illegally destroy black and brown businesses across this entire city. That's the pattern that we want exposed. There is no reason these legitimate business owners that put their hard-earned money into businesses are now finding the tax dollars being used against them to destroy their businesses. These cases should not have happened. They're just a sample of the cases we're going to turn over to the New York State Attorney General to do a thorough investigation of what happened. We're open to any questions at this time. Well, number one, we want to cease and desist. We want the New York City Police Department to stop immediately this harassment. We're sending a letter to the police commissioner and the mayor. We want them to stop immediately this form of harassment right now. We want the cases that are going through the court system and SLA, we want a cease and desist order until the Attorney General conducts an investigation. And we believe each one of these cases should be looked into. And those who had their establishment illegally closed down, we believe that the city of New York and the state of New York should pay them some form of compensation to get them back on their feet. Hold on, bro.
Are you suggesting that this is organized, or that this is it overt? Is it intentional to shut down African American minority-owned businesses?
Yes, I believe in rarely am I saying that something is so organized by city agencies and state agencies. I believe this is intentional, well organized, well orchestrated, identifying the establishment they want to close down, and then hitting them with a series of summonses that they know they're being thrown out in court. But the SLA they're still using that information to take away their liquor license, which is the foundation of a nightlife establishment. I believe this is a well-organized plan of closing down black and brown businesses because of gentrification. When the information came to me and I started doing an analysis, I noticed that they were the same areas that are being gentrified. That is where you see we have weaponized these agencies to, I believe, expedite gentrification. They believe these establishments are harmful to their numbers and they no longer fit into the new Brooklyn, the new Washington Heights, the new Harlem, the new Queens. Well, you know what? We're the old people who have been here for far too long and we need to stay here. Properly hand out the violations, properly do that. But our investigation, our inquiry showed that in cases that is not related to an SLA infraction, it's not related, those cases have been used as an SLA inquiry to close the establishment down. So if someone has a fly inside their place, if someone has something in their kitchen, those, they should get the fine, the city consumer affairs fine, pay the fine. But now we shouldn't take those series of summonses and now use them in the SLA proceedings and say, you know what, you have some violations and we're going to use it to take away your liquor license, so you're destroying the business. And as the Councilman Cabrera stated, we have an officer sitting outside an establishment telling people no. That is unacceptable. So each one of these businesses can tell you who is the hitman that is attacking their business. They can name the people who are involved. All of them are given specific assignments to destroy these businesses, and that's what the problem is. Yes.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
All what you said is nice and beautiful, and I respect it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What if it doesn't change? What shall we do if it doesn't change? What shall every young person outside there have been camped for fucking weeks? Can I say something?
No, hold on. Let me finish one question. Exactly what you're doing now. You know, change comes from legislation, negotiation, and agitation. Those are the combined efforts that put in place change. And as long as you continue to agitate, I have to legislate and others will negotiate. If we have those combinations, we get the change that we're looking for. Brother, that's it. We can talk more. Okay. Thank you.